A brush fire rips through a scenic California town dangerously close to homes and businesses, forcing people to evacuate. Strong winds and hot weather is fueling what's now called the Emerald Fire in Laguna Beach. The bright orange glow of the flames could be seen for miles early this morning. The cost of inflation burning holes in the pockets of Americans. Families paying hundreds of dollars more a month for things they need. What's driving inflation to its highest rate in 40 years, and when it could come back down. Did the former president of the United States flush White House call records down the toilet? The new claims against Donald Trump that he clogged pipes in an attempt to get rid of phone logs from January 6, 2021, the day of the insurrection. Tonight, Trump fires back. A massive ongoing trucker protest at the Canadian border now putting the brakes on manufacturing here in the United States. The automakers stopping production and the fear that these demonstrations will stretch into a crucial weekend.
I live here 12 years and it's been cold every single day.
Some people turn on their burners on the stoves so they can stay warm. I'm like, no, that's not healthy for you. It's toxic.
Living in the cold. Entire buildings are going without heat during the bitter cold winter. Now, one city is trying to bring their residents into a warmer future, becoming a part of history that is out of this world. ABC News Live sits down with Jessica Watkins, who's preparing to set a new record for Black women in space.
What's your message to the children of America?
Dream big. You never know when those dreams are going to come true. So just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and amazing things can happen.
And a social media star opens up about living with anxiety and what his followers can do to find their own inner peace.
I would just say to be patient and kind to yourself, and treat yourself like you would a best friend.
Some sage advice there. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We begin tonight with your money, and the price you pay for just about everything is on the rise. Inflation is now at its highest level in 40 years. From groceries to gas, prices are going up. Sticker shock at the gas pump, where prices are now at an 8-year high. On average, American families are now spending $275 more per month than they were this time a year ago. Even your daily cup of joe is not immune. Starbucks is also raising its prices. Cereal company Kellogg's following suit today. Restaurants like Chipotle moving to raise prices by 10%, blaming supply chain costs across the board. And those supply chain issues playing out in real time near the U.S.-Canada border. That trucker blockade causing major issues. Experts say automakers are literally losing millions by the minute. Car prices already high, could rise even further. We're standing by to talk with the mayor in Canada, whose town has been shut down. But first, our Elwin Lopez is in Detroit with more on the disruptions and what comes next.
Tonight, with that crucial Ambassador Bridge linking Detroit to Windsor, Ontario, shut down for a 4th day by a blockade of protesters, experts say automakers are losing millions by the minute. Toyota partially shutting down their plant in Kentucky, their largest, and shutting 3 Canadian plants for the rest of the week, warning of potential disruptions throughout the weekend. Today, General Motors canceling 2 more shifts at their Lansing SUV factory, in addition to the one yesterday. Ford, Honda, and Stellantis, formerly Fiat Chrysler, all cutting down some degree of production.
They've run out of parts. Parts arrive at the plant maybe 4 hours, maybe 8 hours, maybe a couple days ahead of time. So if there's a hiccup in the supply, that can cause the whole plant to close.
A separate group today blocking the main border crossing between North Dakota and Manitoba. Meanwhile, in Ottawa, protesters swarmed the airport as the blockade of Canada's capital now enters its 3rd week. Some hunkering down with young children, showing no signs of leaving.
Some of those protesters really digging in their heels at this point. Elwin Lopez joins us now. Elwin, we're hearing that Michigan's governor is now offering to help.
Yeah, Lindsay, the mayor says the governor's office has offered to do whatever is needed to help put an end to this blockade, including sending in heavy equipment to remove those trucks. And tonight, the mayor reiterating that he wants this to end peacefully. Lindsay?
So many do. Elwin Lopez, our thanks to you. For more on this impasse, we bring in the mayor of Windsor, Ontario, Drew Dilkins. Mayor, thank you so much for speaking with us, especially during this tumultuous time.
Yeah, no, my pleasure.
And you've said that you hope that this ends peacefully, but if the protesters refuse to leave, that you're prepared to physically remove them. What would physically remove them look like, and what to you is a worst-case scenario?
Well, listen, we hope at the end of the day that we can get compliance from the people who are on the ground. They have certainly made their point over the last 4 days. But at the end of the day, this is an illegal protest. They are blocking off and choking the economies of both the United States and Canada. This is the busiest border crossing between our two countries. $400 million a day crosses at this border. And so something has to happen, something has to give. And if we can't gain compliance, then we bring tow trucks in and many police services to help remove people who are illegally blocking the roadway leading to this crossing.
At that point, once you start towing, once you bring the police in, is there an expectation on your part that this could get violent?
Well, we hope not. We hope to gain compliance. The last thing we want to see happen is anybody get hurt. And at the end of the day, people, the hallmark of the democracies in which we live is that you can protest, you can share your opinion, and we celebrate that. And that's okay. What's not okay is to choke off the busiest border crossing between the United States and Canada and impact thousands and thousands of families across both countries who are at the whim of these protesters, yet they have no control over it. So someone has to speak for the countries and the economy and the families who are suffering as a result of the closures of auto plants and other manufacturers as well.
And you were saying how somebody has to speak for those groups. Are you guys speaking at all right now with the protesters? Is there any kind of conversation, any dialogue to try to end this without the tow trucks and the police coming in?
Police have had dialogue with negotiations with the protesters since the early hours of the protest. But I can tell you what we have on the ground here is really a leaderless movement. You have people who are professional protesters who are here. You have people protesting climate change, protesting vaccine mandates. You have people, this is effectively somewhat like a protest or a rally at a G7 or a G20 meeting, people who are anti-government. And so even if some of them got the mask rules waived or the vaccine mandate waived, I fear that hundreds of them would still stay here because you haven't addressed those concerns. And that's part of the problem. There's no direct person to talk to try and find a resolve to this complicated issue.
And so, Mayor, what do you feel that you need the most right now? What kind of resources could Windsor benefit from to handle this situation?
Well, we have put a request into both our provincial and federal governments asking for more boots on the ground. Send us more police officers so that we can help deal with the situation that we have in front of us. And at the end of the day, we want this to end peacefully. We don't want anyone to get hurt. But left with no other choice, we'll have to bring equipment in and start moving vehicles off the road and get this economy humming again.
You talked about how you have these professional protesters who are already showing up. Are you concerned that this could become even more widespread, that other outside forces might join? Is there any indication at all that the protesters are packing up and going home, or does it seem like it's a larger crowd every day?
Well, that is one of the important calculations here, is that if we move out 200 people that are protesting today, do we have 400 more who show up tomorrow? And so plans have to be made to deal with that scenario, and police are working on those plans as we speak. But it is a complicated situation. In this case, it's a leaderless movement, so you don't have a direct person that you're communicating with who can help find a resolve to this issue.
And of course, in the news, one of the big stories today has been inflation, further exacerbating supply chain issues. What is your message to the protesters? If from our screen right here meant you had a bullhorn on the front line, a megaphone for everybody to listen, what would you want to say to them?
Folks, we hear you. We've heard you. Your protest is well understood in terms of the message you're trying to convey about vaccine mandates and anything related to the pandemic. And we've all lived through this together. We're all frustrated by it, but we're so close to the end right now that, you know what, we can't afford to choke our economy when it's already been hurt so bad because of 2 years of this global pandemic. We have to work together, get the economy open, and together we'll get through this and be in a better place in just a few short months.
Once again, Mayor Drew Dilkens, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Now back to that inflation that we told you about at the top of the show. President Biden acknowledged the pain today, saying we will make it through this challenge. So what continues to drive these rising prices? And the question that we all ask, is there any relief in sight? Our Victor Akendo reports in from Miami.
Tonight, soaring inflation climbing at the fastest pace in 4 decades, squeezing American families, now spending $275 more per month on average on everything from groceries to gas.
$3.99 a gallon right here.
No, sir. Consumer costs skyrocketing 7.5% compared to this time last year, the highest level since 1982.
Inflation is up. It's up. And coming from a family when the price of gas went up, you felt it in the household.
The price of gas hitting an 8-year high. Meats, poultry, fish, and eggs rising more than 12%.
Every little bit helps.
Ella Peterkin is a home health care worker and single mom with 3 young children. Like so many Americans, she's turned to food banks like Feeding South Florida to help make ends meet.
When you go to the supermarket with $100, it doesn't go as far as it used to.
Hard-fought wage increases during the pandemic, going up nearly 6% year over year, but not enough to keep up with this more than 7% inflation. Tonight, the pain also worsening for home buyers. Long-term mortgage rates reaching a 2-year high, nearly 3.7% on average. Among key factors driving inflation, supply chain issues caused largely by the pandemic and households flush with savings from the pandemic spending that cash, increasing demand. That's why the Fed is signaling plans to raise interest rates and slow down the economy.
We're seeing the worst of the inflation right now. I think by spring, certainly by summer, we'll be headed in the right direction.
Victor Oquendo joins us now. Victor, we just heard that economists say that we should see inflation declining by summer, but how long until inflation drops to a manageable level?
Lindsay, the chief economist there at Moody's, tells us that hopefully by this time next year, we should see inflation at a more manageable level of around 3%. And by the middle of next year, just north of 2%, as those expected interest rate increases slow down spending. Lindsay?
Victor Oquendo, our thanks to you. Now to the new reporting about the documents former President Trump allegedly took with him to Mar-a-Lago from the White House. According to the Washington Post, some of the boxes that have since been returned to the National Archives were marked top secret. And there were also new allegations about whether Trump flushed papers down a White House toilet. Here's ABC's congressional correspondent, Rachel Scott.
Tonight, the Washington Post reporting that 15 boxes of White House documents former President Trump improperly brought with him to Florida contained classified documents, including some at a top secret level. According to the Post, the documents were clearly marked classified. The markings were reportedly discovered by the National Archives, which retrieved the boxes last month. Trump long attacked Hillary Clinton for her mishandling of her own government emails.
The thing that you should be apologizing for are the 33,000 emails that you deleted, and then the 2 boxes of emails and other things last week that were taken from an office and are now missing.
But now the National Archives is calling on the Justice Department to investigate whether Trump mishandled government documents himself. And today, new reporting that members of the White House staff believe Trump flushed printed pieces of paper down the toilet. In her upcoming book, Confidence Man, New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman writes that workers in the White House residence periodically found the toilets were clogged with wads of paper and thought the president did it. Trump calls the story categorically untrue and simply made up.
Former president remaining defiant. Rachel Scott joins us now from outside of the Capitol. Rachel, you also reported today that House investigators are finding gaps in White House phone records from January 6th. What have you learned about that?
Well, at this point, Lindsay, I'm told that the committee has not found any evidence to believe that those call logs were either tampered with or deleted. But we know that the former president liked to make calls from his personal cell phone. So this is now just the latest hurdle for investigators that are really trying to piece together who Donald Trump was talking to that day and when. Lindsay?
Rachel Scott, our thanks to you as always. Now to the pandemic. New COVID cases are down nearly 70% from the Omicron peak, but like we've certainly seen before, the nation is sharply divided over just what to do next. Tonight, at least 10 states have announced changes to their mask mandates, but the battles over COVID restrictions seem far from over. Here's ABC's Whit Johnson with the latest.
Tonight, with mask rules dropping across the country, many Americans feeling relieved, but others are still uneasy. New York State today, just the latest to lose the mandate.
People do what they want, but I'm going to still wear mine.
And now Nevada ordering an immediate end to its indoor mask mandate, including in schools.
Everyone wants to get back to their normal life, whatever normal is. I mean, it's been 2 years. So I think the time has come.
Maryland's governor urging state education officials to drop its school mask requirement. This as at least 10 states move ahead of CDC recommendations by removing mask mandates.
One of the challenging pieces has been how we make guidance that is general enough so that it can be applied to New York City and rural Montana and Indian country, which is our responsibility, and yet have it be specific enough so that people can get their questions answered.
Officials across the country citing dramatic drops in COVID numbers. New daily cases down 70%. Hospitalizations down 40% in the last 3 weeks. In Connecticut, protesters demanding an immediate end to the mandates. But some parents worry it's just too soon.
I'm feeling like it's premature. I do think they've been effective at keeping the kids from getting COVID, so it's like a double-edged sword.
About half of eligible children remain unvaccinated.
I myself have young children and worry about them every day. So this is not just about one person, it's about our whole community.
Whit Johnson joins us now, and Whit, an FDA expert panel is set to review the Pfizer vaccine for children under 5 next Tuesday. How is the federal government planning to respond if it gets the green light?
Lindsay, once the FDA authorizes the vaccine, the federal government will start shipping out 10 million initial doses to the states even before the CDC gives the final green light. And those vaccine vials will come with special maroon-colored caps so that healthcare providers can differentiate them from the vials for older kids and adults. Lindsay?
Smart to make that distinction there. Whit Johnson, our thanks to you. Turning overseas now, where there are new warnings about Iran's nuclear program as indirect talks between the U.S. and Iran enter what's being called a critical final phase. U.S. officials have warned that Iran is just weeks away from having enough material for a nuclear bomb, though they're still more than a year from being able to actually build one. ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz is in Iran for us tonight and has the latest.
Tonight, negotiations over Iran's growing nuclear program at a critical stage. The U.S. warning the country is now just weeks away from having enough nuclear fuel for a nuclear bomb.
Iran will never get a nuclear weapon on my watch.
Experts say it could still take over a year for Iran to build an actual bomb. But after former President Trump pulled out of the Obama-era nuclear deal in 2018, Iran, furious, began expanding its uranium stockpile while these new talks have dragged on. Trump left the original agreement hoping punishing sanctions could drive Iran to cut a better deal. Here in Tehran, those sanctions are being felt. The economy crippled, inflation and public discontent both high. But its government remains defiant, unveiling a new long-range missile, claiming it's capable of reaching Israel and U.S. bases in the region. The White House says a deal is still possible, but time is running out. And the question is, if they can't reach a deal, then what? Lindsay?
Martha, our thanks to you. We turn now to the West Coast, where a brush fire is threatening homes in California's exclusive Laguna Beach. Hundreds of families have been ordered to leave their houses as the flames, fueled by strong winds, are posing a threat during what is usually one of the wettest months of the year. ABC's chief national correspondent Matt Gutman has the latest.
That wildfire blazing through vegetation in Orange County this morning and towards homes.
There are hundreds and hundreds of homes down that hillside,
which now being called the Emerald Fire, erupting before dawn as families slept.
There's a mad scramble to make sure everyone is out of this area.
On the ground, hundreds of firefighters racing to gain the upper hand. In the air, helicopters with drop after drop.
They've got 2 bulldozers up here trying to take out this spot fire. There are multiple helicopters circling overhead, and all of it is to try to defend those homes down in the valley.
Residents grateful for that lightning-quick response.
This time they were on it, man. They were good. All the winds have died down, and that's a godsend right there.
The fire igniting in the midst of record-high temperatures and powerful winds.
We no longer have a fire season. We have a fire year.
Multiple homes ablaze in what's being called the Sycamore Fire east of Los Angeles.
They are trying to get the fire that you're looking at right here under control, those 2 house fires. Unfortunately, though, both of those homes are going to be a total loss.
Fire year is right. Those blazes seem to not want to stop. Matt Gutman joins us now. Matt, what's the situation on the ground there right now?
There is this fire, Lindsay, near Whittier, California. That's that sycamore fire we just told you about. No reported injuries there, but temperatures here in Southern California topping out today at over 90 degrees. There's been almost no measurable rain here since December, and this is one reason that a top Cal Fire official is telling me that these winter wildfires are undeniably driven by climate change. Lindsay.
Okay, Matt Gutman, our thanks to you. And when we come back, the grandmother rescued after a 17-hour hostage ordeal and how Wordle may have helped save the day. Nearly 5 years after the killing of 2 Indiana girls made national headlines, police say they may be closing in on the killer. But up next, it's the dead of winter, and we've seen so many fires, particularly in major American cities. But is there an environmentally friendly solution that could keep people warm and save lives?
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast, now streaming on ABC News Live.
It was a scary time. In the 70s, you had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it, serial killer.
There was a human head in there.
This was premeditated evil.
We have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I risked my life. I put my family in danger. If I was caught, they would have put a bullet in my head. But it was the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do.
Terror plot foiled in Garden City, Kansas.
That would have been one of the most deadly acts of domestic terrorism ever in the United States.
It would have been Oklahoma City.
He put his family, himself, in jeopardy for us.
Take America's #1 news with you anywhere you go, anytime, free. Download the ABC News app now. Breaking news, exclusives, 24/7. There for you with one touch. The ABC News app. Download it now. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
National parks are incredibly safe places, but crime will happen.
Hey, my wife is fallen. She's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident.
There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
And tonight, that 9-year-old little girl who we reported was shot during an apparent road rage incident in Houston is fighting for her life. Ashanti Grant was shot in the head while she was on the way to the grocery store with her family and ended up being caught in some type of crossfire. Her grandmother says the 4th grader can wiggle her fingers and toes, but is not yet out of the woods. Next tonight, to something that anyone who lives in a cold place likely cannot live without. We're talking about heat, of course. Weeks after that deadly fire in the Bronx, there is frustration and anger as not just apartments, but entire public housing buildings are going cold. Residential energy is responsible for 20% of all greenhouse gas emissions in this country, and the energy in many buildings is largely inefficient. So how can New York City and cities across the country improve? Here's our chief meteorologist, Ginger Z, with this week's It's Not Too Late.
I'm Ginger Z, and it's not too late. I'm standing on top of the Fort Independence houses, one of more than 300 public housing developments in the city of New York alone. One big issue in the city of New York and in many other cities when it comes to public housing, heat.
I live here 12 years and it's been cold every single day.
And I just sleep in layers of clothes when I go to bed, or eat in the living room with my coat on.
Stephen and Lauren are two of more than 700 people who live in the Fort Independence houses right there in the Bronx. Built in 1971, this aging edifice is the property of NYCHA, the New York City Housing Authority. It's the largest landlord in all of New York, overseeing more than 170,000 units. And it's also the largest public housing authority in North America.
Some people turn on their burners on the stove so they can stay warm. I'm like, no, that's not healthy for you. It's toxic.
The problems they're seeing in their building are not unique. Broken boilers also left folks from Queens to Brooklyn without heat this winter.
Breaking news, the devastating fire tearing through a high-rise apartment building here in New York City.
Just last month, 17 people, including 8 children, died in a fire that was started by a space heater in another building in the Bronx.
It was just scary. It was scary. I was more worried about my family than myself.
More than 80% of New York's low-income housing relies on old boilers. Now, those are fueled by natural gas, propane, or oil. So they're bad for the environment, but they're also bad for people. So NYCHA knows it needs to rapidly change. And coincidentally, on the day we come to the Fort Independence houses to talk about energy efficiency and their plans to make things better, the media getting together with the public advocate that is here to fight for the people's right to heat.
NYCHA is the worst landlord in the city.
The boiler's expensive to maintain. Well,
yeah.
The thing is, like, they don't make steam boilers. They make steam boilers. They don't make buildings with steam boilers anymore.
Jordan Bonomo is NYCHA's program manager, so he's responsible for transitioning NYCHA from gas to a healthier electric option. The Fort Independence houses also, happy coincidence, happens to be part of a pilot program with these heat pumps. They are 6 times as efficient as the old boiler system. 7 of their units are now heated and cooled using these heat pumps.
What these do is basically, they're giant air conditioners that can move in both directions. So in the winter, this goes into heating mode and takes heat from outside, even though it's cold, and it transfers it inside.
But getting them up and running is complicated and an extremely long process.
All in all, it was about 10 days per apartment of work when you factor in the plumber, the electrician, the carpenters that are needed.
Not just for the health of our planet, but for the people who live in and around these buildings, has to be paramount. Does it feel like we're behind?
I would love to say that this has been going on, that we've been doing this for longer, but you know, the attention is on right now on this issue, and we are bound by local law 97 to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. That's not a really long time.
7 units are heated by this, but there are many more units in this building. When are the rest of the folks in this building going to get the change? When's the next building next door going to get the change?
This was a pilot, and we wanted to really prove that the technology worked and could provide heat.
There are more than 1.2 million public housing units across the nation, and low-income households spend about twice as much on energy as the average household. In general, heating, cooling, and lighting our home is responsible for 20% of our greenhouse gas emissions.
So are we putting it into a 1970s air conditioner or a boiler that was built decades ago? Or are we using that energy in, say, heat pumps, which give us both heating and cooling much more efficiently?
John Rogers is an energy expert who wrote a book about the impacts of low-carbon living.
And I think what we need is to be looking to the building owners and the building managers and the governments, the city, the state, and the federal level, to be driving us in the direction of truly clean energy, of which energy efficiency is a huge piece.
NYCHA says that they hope to deploy heat pumps to more than 50,000 apartments, but that's going to be over the next 10 years, and it's still not even 30% of their properties. The Department of Energy says that with advancements in the cold climate electric heat pump, The average U.S. family could save $500 a year.
I mean, it's freezing in the morning. When you get up, the floor is cold, everything. And I don't think it's fair.
The boiler inside this building is 18 years old, and it went down in early December. They're still waiting on a part, so it's been 2 months of intermittent working of this mobile boiler that they brought in. This thing has had problems too. It's just like a gaping wound that has a Band-Aid in the street. A wound that is in so many other public housing units from here all the way across the country. Something that needs to be worked on, not just for energy efficiency and our planet, but for the people that live inside before it's too late.
Our thanks to Ginger for that. Still ahead here on Prime, we now know more about why 6 gold medals are being withheld from 6 Russian skaters. Our conversation with the 19-year-old social media sensation who has been releasing music and documentaries. It is tonight's TikTok. And in which states do people live the longest? We take a look by the numbers, but first our tweet of the day from Adrian Wojnarowski on the blockbuster NBA trade made just before the deadline. James Harden heading to Philadelphia and Ben Simmons traveling north to Brooklyn.
It was an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do you evade capture for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive? Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new Hunt wherever you get your podcasts.
It was a scary time. In the 70s, you had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it, serial killer.
There was a human head in there.
This was premeditated evil.
We have this clock. This person is going to do this again. It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
World News Now.
And America This Morning.
The best new videos.
Breaking news overnight.
Your money and concerns about inflation.
The pandemic is not over.
The stories people are talking about.
You don't want to shave your legs? Don't. I was gonna say. And what to expect in the day ahead.
From the top of the world, baby! ABC World News Now and America This Morning.
Weekday morning starting at 2 a.m. Eastern.
Up all night to keep you up to date.
Right now, with so much at stake, Sunday mornings, this is the place. Taking on all the tough questions, straightforward reporting, no spin, no hype, no bull. Thank you for making ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos the #1 Sunday morning news show versus the competition.
Welcome to This Week.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us. Welcome back, everybody. Now to a new CDC report that suggests where you live could help determine how long you live. The study looked at life expectancy in all U.S. states based on death rates from 2019, the last year the complete data is available. Of course, that does not include any drop in life expectancy from COVID-19. We take a look by the numbers. For the U.S., overall life expectancy was 78.8 years in 2019. That's an increase of 1/10 of a year from 2018. In all 50 states, life expectancy was higher for women than for men. On average, women live 5 years longer than men in the U.S., but that gap used to be wider. Back in 1978, women actually lived 8 years longer than men. One possible explanation is that at that time, men were much more likely to smoke than women. Hawaii has the longest life expectancy in America, nearly 81 years. Perhaps it's the weather and maybe a more laid-back lifestyle. Rounding out the other top 5 states with the longest life expectancy: California, New York, Minnesota, and Massachusetts. Mississippi had the shortest life expectancy with 74.4 years. Also in the bottom 5 were West Virginia, Alabama, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And we still have lots to get to here on Prime tonight. The TikTok influencer being sued. She's facing allegations that she used her platform to scam thousands of her followers. And Britain's Prince Charles tests positive for COVID. When was the last time he was near the Queen? But first, a look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
Powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
It's an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do you evade capture for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new hunt wherever you get your podcasts.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
National parks are incredibly safe places. A crime will happen.
Hey, my wife had fallen. She's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident.
There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? Figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart that he did this.
It's the time of suspicion.
The ending's really tough.
You don't know whether truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Former President Trump is facing new scrutiny over his handling of official White House documents. An excerpt published in Axios from an upcoming book by New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman says that while Trump was in the White House, residential staff periodically discovered wads of printed paper clogging a toilet and believed the president had flushed pieces of paper. The report comes after ABC News confirmed Trump took 15 boxes of presidential records and memorabilia from the White House to his Florida Mar-a-Lago resort, including correspondence with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un.
He wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters.
Winners of the figure skating team event still in limbo tonight as we learn more about what may have led Olympic officials to postpone their medal ceremony. NBC reporting that before the Winter Games, 15-year-old Russian skater Kamila Valieva allegedly tested positive for the banned substance trimetazidine. The anti-doping agency prohibits the drug because it can boost endurance and blood flow, but it's often prescribed to treat heart problems.
That calls into question right away. Why would she need a heart medication? If she needs it, she would have a therapeutic use exemption.
40 years after the iconic Calvin Klein ads that made her a household name and ruffled feathers, Brooke Shields is the new face of Jordash's spring jeans campaign. The model turned actress embracing her age, posing topless wearing jeans. This modeling gig coming after a tough recovery. Just last year, Shields breaking her right femur in a freak gym accident, and after multiple surgeries and complications, relearning how to walk. In May, the mom of 2 daughters opening up about her recovery.
I can teach my girls, yeah, stuff's gonna happen in your life, and how you respond is going to define you.
Prince Charles testing positive for COVID. It's the second time the heir to the British throne has had the virus. Clarence House says he is fully vaccinated. Charles and his wife attending an event Tuesday night. They're now isolating. It's not clear exactly when the prince last saw the 95-year-old queen.
Social media influencer Brittany Dawn.
All right, I will see you guys at the gym.
Known for sharing her fitness and lifestyle routines and her Christian beliefs.
I love listening to podcasts and sermons while I'm driving.
Is being sued by the state of Texas, accused of using her platforms to scam thousands of her followers. The lawsuit claims from as early as 2014, Dawn sold a variety of fitness packages with promises of personalized nutritional guidance and individualized fitness coaching, costing customers up to $300 each. According to the lawsuit, those customers did not receive any personalized sessions, instead receiving a single encouraging email or text reading, "That's my girl, you're killing it," or "You've got this, babe."
It was terrible, mind-blowing advice, dangerous advice.
Saved by Wordle. An 80-year-old grandmother, Denise Holt, held hostage in Chicago for nearly 20 hours when a naked man broke into her home. According to local reports, her daughter knew something wasn't right when her mom wasn't responding to her text messages and hadn't sent her Wordle score that day, a game the two normally play.
After trying to call the 80-year-old's cell and landline to no avail, her daughter sent officers to do a wellness check. Holt was freed from her basement shortly after officers arrived.
It has been nearly 5 years after the killing of 2 Indiana teenage girls, and police believe they may now be closing in on the killer. The murders captured national headlines in part because one of the girls may have recorded the suspect with a phone. While the case is cold, as Amy Robach reports, police say they are optimistic they may soon be able to crack it.
Nearly 5 years since 13-year-old Abby Williams and 14-year-old Libby German were murdered on this Indiana hiking trail. Their killer still at large. Indiana State Police issuing a new warning to the culprit.
My resolve to catch him is as strong now as it was day one. But the difference now between now and day one is we know about you. A lot about you. Today could be the day. Sleep well.
Abby and Libby were last seen near this bridge in February of 2017. Authorities say Libby recorded this image of the alleged killer on her iPhone, along with haunting audio of his voice moments before their murder, apparently telling them to go down the hill.
State police also urging anyone who may have communicated with this phony social media profile, Anthony_Shots, to come forward. Police releasing information about these fake Snapchat and Instagram accounts in December, saying the person who created them tried to solicit nude images, obtain addresses, and meet juvenile females. Investigators say the model in these images is not a suspect.
That's generated a tremendous number of leads for us, and that's as far as I can go.
If you knew Libby, she had her phone attached to her hip all the time.
Libby's grandparents believe the teen knew something wasn't right with the man she encountered, prompting her to record him.
Something inside me just says, oh, she was going to film that and come home and say, look, Grandpa, look at this guy, you know. He was out there, really weird.
Abby's mother, Anna, reflecting on what her daughter would have been like today.
They'd be finishing up their freshman year in college. It's hard to believe. She would have turned into a really good young lady.
Both families desperate for the one tip that will bring them closure.
It's probably the smallest thing, but it's that small thing that we're missing. And that's what we just keep hoping for, is that that one small thing will come to light and that this will be over soon.
This guy could strike again. You know, it could be your kids, you know, it happened to our family. I don't want it to happen to anybody else. This is not something anybody should have to go through.
Our thanks to Amy for that. And now we are tracking several headlines around the world. Families are in anguish tonight after a bus fell into a steep ravine in the northwest area of the Andes in Peru. At least 20 people died and 33 were injured. The bus plunged more than 300 feet. The incident is now under investigation. And Russian troops have begun massive war games with their allies in Belarus. The Russian Defense Ministry has released video of the joint drills. Russia is also conducting large naval exercises in the Black Sea. Ukraine has accused them of an unprecedented blockade of its coasts. The State Department has updated its travel advisory and is now urging American citizens in the country to, quote, depart now via commercial or private means, adding the U.S. government cannot evacuate citizens anywhere there. And earlier you heard about his father battling COVID again. Well, Prince William was planting trees in the UAE today in Abu Dhabi, where he discussed his mission to fight climate change. We turn now to our weekly segment, TikTok, where we interview our favorite TikTokers and get a look at the story behind the sensation. Our next guest is one of Gen Z's fastest growing stars, 19-year-old musician, actor, creator, and now filmmaker, Jacob Sartorius. Jacob has taken social media by storm with 39 million followers across all platforms. Jacob, welcome.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you. Your initial rise to social media fame started when you were just 11 years old. So in many ways, you've kind of grown up with your followers. What has that journey been like for you?
It's been awesome. There's nothing that can describe it other than a beautiful adventure. And yeah, we've all, it feels like we've grown up together. We really have. So it's special.
And you just released your first single of 2022, which got more than 80,000 streams just in the first week. Let's take a listen to Fear of Intimacy.
I got a fear of intimacy. It's always living with me. I know you can't really see. I got some voices to please.
Hey, Jacob, what inspired this song?
This is a song about some of my biggest fears, and one of them happens to be a fear of intimacy. And this song names many others, but yeah, this is just real emotions and some of the things that I've struggled with for a while in finding deep, meaningful relationships. It's been difficult having these fears, but learning to overcome them and speak about them really helps. And I'm glad that people relate.
It's interesting because you're talking about something that's so heavy and the idea of fear, but yet you've made it really kind of uplifting. While what people didn't see was while we were playing that little clip, you were dancing. So it's something that you've managed to turn around to kind of make it not so fearful after all.
Absolutely. It's like an anthem.
And you also use your platform as a tool for education. You recently teamed up with Dr. Fauci to debunk COVID-19 myths. Why was that important for you to discuss that in particular with your followers?
Well, I think that's something that has a lot of misconceptions and conspiracy theories online. And after doing the research and speaking to Dr. Fauci, I realized that it was the best decision to be vaccinated, and that a lot of these myths online are nonsense, and it's good to actually look into the facts and protect ourselves, and not only ourselves, but those around us.
And you recently released your documentary, Breath, in which you talk about your struggles with anxiety. What was that like to open up about something so personal? And what do you hope the viewers are able to take away from the film?
It felt like letting people into my journal that I write in every day, and bringing them along for an experience that allowed me to find inner peace that I didn't know lied within. And hopefully others can be put onto a resource of a natural healer, something as simple as breathing. I didn't know that something as simple as breathing, because it's a free resource, can bring so much peace and happiness that I didn't have currently.
And so for the people who are outside of the 39 million who follow you, who didn't see or haven't seen some of what you've done and put out there, especially about anxiety, what's one tip that you might give somebody who's suffering from anxiety right now?
I would just say to be patient and kind to yourself, and treat yourself like you would a best friend. Be kind to yourself. And as well, there's so many great resources. If I were you, I'd look into the Wim Hof method. It's helped me a lot personally with anxiety, and cold showers, cold exposure, shocking the body, getting out of our comfort zone has allowed me to do things that I otherwise wouldn't be able to do because fear was in the way. So I hopefully those are some good resources. There's many others as well, but I'm still learning and figuring them out along the way.
And now that fear is moving out of the way or out of the way altogether, what do you see yourself doing in the future? I mean, you've already done so much and you're just 19. But what's, dare I say, next for you? Because you've kind of done it all.
Just keep finding ways to stay excited about what I'm doing, whether that's filmmaking, it's acting, it's making music, different ways to express and share universal emotions that can relate to others all over. I think that's like what makes this so special, is that through the internet, through these different mediums, we're able to connect and have a direct impact on people. Keep going.
I feel that connection just talking to you right now. I feel a little younger. I feel a little more energized. I feel a little more excited about what is my next project going to be. So thank you for that, Jacob, and thank you for your time tonight. Jacob's latest single, Fear of Intimacy, is out right now. Thanks so much, Jacob.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Now to the future astronaut about to break new ground as she becomes the first Black woman to go on a long-duration mission to the International Space Station this spring. ABC's Gio Benitez has this story.
They don't make them like this in New York. This is the International Space Station, 248 miles above Earth, traveling at 17,500 miles per hour, orbiting the Earth 16 times every day. Although it's meant as a research hub for astronauts from all over the world, its crew finds a way to have a bit of fun.
Thanks for the honor, guys. I really appreciate that.
Oh, excellent.
We're kind of working it out to the ends.
Of the thousands who apply for the astronaut candidate program, only a few are chosen, and 33-year-old Jessica Watkins was one of them.
Jessica Watkins.
Did you ever think that this was going to be possible, that one day you would be flying to space to do work on the International Space Station?
You know, it always was kind of a distant dream for me, and something that I wanted to pursue, but really honestly never thought would actually happen.
Watkins, a geologist and one of the youngest candidates in history, was chosen as the final member of SpaceX Crew 4. In mid-April, she, along with 3 others, will spend 6 months aboard the International Space Station, conducting research and observing geological changes on Earth.
We often hear from astronauts that when they get up there and they see the Earth from that perspective, from that vantage point, it changes them. Have you thought about how it might change you?
Yeah, you know, I think that effect, that overview effect, I think is very real. Being able to see the Earth as one whole body and one small, fragile body as well, that we all live on, that kind of sentiment being able to see how small we really are, how shared our space is, and then how fragile that environment is. Being able to see just, the thin atmosphere, I think really will have an impact in terms of just appreciating what we have and being good stewards of it.
Watkins will serve as a mission specialist, and while she'll be the 5th African-American woman to go up to space, following the footsteps of women like Mae Jemison, she will be the first to actually live and work on the ISS on a long-duration mission.
So what was that training like?
So we have, there are kind of two components of training. First, when we first arrive after we're first selected, much like the most recent class that just got selected is about to embark on their kind of 2 years of basic training.
She spent the past few years learning how to fly T-38 jets, to speak Russian, to communicate with Russian ISS crew members, and of course, spacewalking.
What is really important about that is, for everyone kind of here on the ground, I think is getting to see the team of people here at NASA that all come from different backgrounds, different expertise, come together and accomplish these really difficult things, set these really almost impossible goals, and then just put in the work together to make those goals happen. And I think that's something that we can really just take away for our day-to-day lives.
As Watkins prepares to embark on what will surely be one of her life's greatest missions, she makes sure to remind herself to soak in each moment, never forgetting the journey she took to have her dream come true.
What's your message to the children of America?
To any kids watching, I would just say, find what you're passionate about, find what you love doing, and just pursue it relentlessly. Dream big. You never know when those dreams are going to come true.
Find what you are passionate about. Our thanks to Gio Benitez for that. And before we go tonight, the image of the day. Take a look at this extraordinarily large flower. It's called a rafflesia, and it's one of the largest flowers in the world. An environmental activist was measuring one in a village in West Sumatra. Look at that. And that is our show for this hour. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Next hour, with the Super Bowl just days away, we take a deep dive into the state of America's most popular sport, from the fight to diversify its coaching ranks to disturbing allegations from female employees, and of course, the game itself that so many love. Stay with us.
More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1 news source. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Admit it, these days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it.
Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
Take America's #1 news with you anywhere you go, anytime, free. Download the ABC News app now. Breaking news, exclusives, 24/7. There for you with one touch. The ABC News app. Download it now.
It was a scary time in the 70s. You had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it. Serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
You have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
ABC News, honored winner of 9 Edward R. Murrow Awards, more than any other network, including winning for the 3rd straight year the award for overall excellence in television. ABC News is America's #1 news source. With so much at stake, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 newscast and the #1 program on television.
Hey there, I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're monitoring several developments here at ABC News at this hour. There are new reports about some of the documents former President Trump took with him to Florida from the White House. According to the Washington Post, inside the 15 boxes brought to Mar-a-Lago were documents clearly marked classified, some even at top secret levels. The National Archives retrieved the boxes last month, and they are now calling on the Justice Department to investigate Trump's handling of government documents. President Joe Biden says he has narrowed down his list for the next Supreme Court nominee to, quote, about 4 people. The president says the short list of potential nominees are well qualified and experienced. He has promised to nominate a black woman. In California tonight, a brush fire threatens homes in the state's exclusive Laguna Beach community, already damaging at least 2. Hundreds of families have been ordered to evacuate. Powerful winds and record high temperatures are fueling the flames. Now tonight, 3 days ahead of the Super Bowl, we want to take a deeper look at the state of the NFL. It's been one of the most successful seasons on the field, but one of the most tumultuous ones off the field. Our Kaylee Hartung is covering the Super Bowl for us in Los Angeles and has this in-depth report.
How on earth did he stay on his feet? But he did.
You might never see this season a better hard-earned run.
Any way you slice it.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe what we just saw.
The NFL has had a season for the history books.
And one of the great divisional games of all time is pandemonium on the field.
But as we head into Super Bowl Sunday,
intercepted by the Rams, Cincinnati is heading to the Super Bowl.
Flores was fired. The spotlight is just as bright off the field.
Brian Flores now suing the NFL and 3 teams for alleged racial bias in hiring.
He goes so far as to say the NFL in general is run like a plantation.
One of the NFL's most recognizable coaches stepping down.
He's been doing that for years, talking behind people's back.
A new allegation of sexual harassment.
Women were used as sex objects and tools to increase sales.
These are not the storylines that the NFL wants people to be talking about in the run-up to the Super Bowl.
So how did we get here?
The racism, the misogyny, the homophobia, it's all part of the NFL's dirty secrets, but the problem is that the business is doing great.
Award-winning sports columnist Bill Rhoden is one of many frustrated with the NFL.
Flores was bold enough to step out there. It will be interesting to see how many players back him up, how many coaches back him up.
I think it's painful for every black or minority player, coach, executive. This be the year 2022, and we're still dealing with a lot of the same things.
To the end zone, touchdown Miami.
In his lawsuit, Flores names the league and 3 teams as participants in racist hiring practices, including the Miami Dolphins, who, despite having a winning record during his tenure, fired Flores as head coach for alleged poor collaboration. Flores has been coaching for 14 years and is widely considered a highly qualified candidate to lead an NFL team.
You've coached in the league, you've played in the league. Were you surprised to hear these allegations by Brian Flores?
I can't say that I was surprised, but I am disappointed. It's been the elephant in the room for quite some time.
Well, everybody knew. He's just putting it black and white, but it's always hard to prove.
So when the New York Giants came calling, Flores says he was ecstatic and ready to turn a page until he received a text from New England Patriots coach Bill Belichick, congratulating him on landing the job. It was 3 days before his meeting was scheduled.
Given the fact that I hadn't even interviewed, it didn't feel right. So I asked, Bill through text, are you hearing something I'm not hearing?
Flores says the exchange led him to believe his interview was simply to comply with the league's Rooney Rule that mandates teams consider at least one minority candidate for their head coaching positions, and that he was not in serious contention for the top job because of the color of his skin.
Just kind of gives you proof. But is that proof enough? Probably not.
Flores' lawsuit also calls out race norming, a formula used for years by the NFL in concussion settlements to evaluate cognitive damage. It assumes black players start at a lower intellectual level than white players. making it harder for them to qualify for compensation.
So it just gives you how they view black people as being inferior intellectually to white people.
The NFL agreed to remove race norming from the settlement process last year after a series of ABC News reports, saying the NFL is committed to finding alternative testing techniques that will lead to diagnostic accuracy without employing race-based norms. In addition to racial discrimination in his lawsuit, the former coach accuses Dolphins owner Stephen Ross of attempting to pay him $100,000 for each loss in the 2019 season, so the Dolphins could get the #1 pick in the NFL draft. Ross has denied those allegations as false, malicious, and defamatory.
Why would you throw out the integrity of all your hard work to tank a game? Maybe an owner or someone is wishing that, but I myself cannot ever imagine experiencing that.
Since the Flores lawsuit first made waves last week, the league has sent out a flurry of statements refuting any claims of organized discriminatory hiring practices. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell met with civil rights advocates and released a memo to team owners calling efforts to increase diversity among the league's coaching staff unacceptable.
They are very serious matters to us on all levels, and we need to make sure we get to the bottom of all of them.
Did you hear anything from the commissioner that makes you feel like he understands the frustration so many feel?
Frankly, I think it frustrates Roger Goodell, because at the end of the day, he works for these people. You know, he works for them. And they've basically said, screw you, Roger, we're going to hire who we want to hire.
The league's 32 white owners under the microscope more than ever.
Business is good, and nobody has found the leverage yet to hurt them. And how do you hurt a multi-billionaire? I mean, I don't know.
You can't make owners do, billionaire owners do, what they don't want to do when you answer to them because they're the ones paying you.
In trouble.
Washington Commanders owner Dan Snyder also facing calls to sell the team as sexual harassment allegations continue to come to light against him and team executives.
He left his hand on the middle of my thigh until I physically removed it.
That allegation made by a former employee before Congress last week at a hearing where 6 former employees added new testimony to previously surfaced accusations over the past 2 decades that there was a toxic work environment and that women who work for the team frequently face sexual harassment. In a statement to ABC News, Snyder apologized for those other employees who were mistreated and denied the new allegation categorically. The women urging the NFL to release the results of a 2020 investigation into the franchise's work environment, which led the NFL to fine Snyder $10 million. Some emails released from that investigation did send shockwaves across the league.
John Gruden's career is over. It's over.
The Super Bowl winning former head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, resigning back in October after it was publicly revealed he repeatedly used racist, sexist, and homophobic language in emails over a 7-year period.
I'm saddened for the Raiders organization. I'm saddened for the people that were offended by it. I'm saddened for Coach Gruden. It's a sad commentary.
In his resignation, Gruden apologizing, saying, "I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt anyone." An NFL source telling ABC News there is still no change or any plan to release additional emails from that Washington football team investigation beyond the Gruden emails. The league this week did commit to investigating the new allegations brought forward to Congress.
I hope it is deeply investigated and made sure it never happens again.
As the league gets ready for Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles, a recognition by some that change and transparency is necessary.
I think there will be change. I don't know if there's going to be meaningful change. I'm not optimistic about that. And there probably will not be meaningful change until players in the league force the change.
We are the ones that have to make sure we bring diversity deeper into our NFL and make the NFL inclusive and diverse organization that allows everyone the opportunity to be successful.
Now they chase him. Spins around, and the ball's out!
Roger Goodell calling for change there. We'll see if that comes about. Kaylee Hartung joins us now from the NFL Experience in Los Angeles. Kaylee, despite all of the off-the-field trouble for the NFL, as the league gets ready for the big game, the league is touting a number of successes for the NFL this year. Give us a sense of some of those.
Yeah, Lindsay, the NFL put out as successful of a product on the field as it perhaps ever has. The playoffs
were electric, absolutely electric, and doing this all in the middle of a pandemic. About 95% of NFL players are vaccinated, and the NFL's chief medical officer really credits the teams, the players, and the staffs for taking proactive measures to prevent any outbreaks this season, especially through the Omicron surge. There are some serious, weighty issues that the NFL needs to address to chart a path forward, but there are wins that this league can celebrate, Lindsay.
And as I mentioned, you are there, the NFL experience. I imagine the focus of the fans there is the big game.
Yeah, absolutely, Lindsay. This is where you come to celebrate the season, the culmination with Super Bowl 56. And while Commissioner Goodell's press conference the other day was filled with questions about the Flores lawsuit and the investigation in Washington, that's not what you find fans talking about around here. They are here to be entertained, and the NFL is in the business of entertaining. And here we have a matchup in this Super Bowl, Lindsay, that no one would have predicted coming into this season. Everyone in LA is excited for this place to be host to a Super Bowl for the first time in nearly 30 years. Of course, the Rams able to host the game in their own house, and the Bengals looking to win their first Super Bowl ever. This is a game with more storylines than I have time to mention here. It's like something out of a movie script, from the quarterbacks to the coaches, the redemption stories. This game has all the makings of must-see TV if the playoffs were any indication. And Lindsay, LA is excited about it. NFL fans are excited about it. And let me not forget to mention that epic halftime show we've been promised is something
that's
to tune in for
before
too,
we
Lindsay.
even talk about the music that's going to be there. Lots of excitement. Kaylee Hartung, our thanks to you for bringing it to us. Joining us now for more on the state of the NFL and for perspective on coaching in the NFL is former Bengals head coach Marvin Lewis. He's currently an advisor to the Arizona State Sun Devils football program and leads sports talent agencies Octagon's career development program. Coach Lewis, we thank you so much for talking with us tonight.
Lindsay, thank you for having me.
So before we dive into what's been a rather controversial past few weeks for the NFL, we do want to start off with a huge and hearty congratulations to your beloved Bengals. What does it mean to you to see the team that you coached for 15 years now playing in the Super Bowl this weekend?
It's exciting, I think, really exciting. Obviously, there's a number of players that were there my last season there in Cincinnati, and obviously the ownership and so forth, and a few coaches. So it's really exciting for them to have this opportunity. It's great for the city of Cincinnati and their fans.
And now let's turn to the lawsuit by Brian Flores. In it, he accuses the league of being managed much like a plantation, and we certainly saw that same imagery in Colin Kaepernick's Netflix series. What do you make of these comparisons between the NFL and slavery?
Well, I think, obviously Coach is very frustrated about his situation, what went on in a number of, different areas. And I think that's, it's come to light. I think many coaches have felt like the opportunities for African-American coaches have been very limited, and their records and so forth are treated differently than our counterparts.
And do you feel that way? Because you're saying that, many do feel that way. Is that a sentiment that you share as well?
Well, I feel the opportunities seem to be very limited for whatever reason. I don't know why. And I do feel, that we've seen too many times where African-American coaches have been let go after a year, and they have had basically non-losing records, 8-8 a couple of times for coaches, and other coaches just seem to have more opportunity to continue. And Brian had a winning record. He's let go after 3 seasons. We know the things that he said occurred there in the offices there in Miami, coming from ownership.
And Commissioner Goodell has called his allegations very serious on all levels. Now that the NFL hiring process for next season is complete, there are 2 black coaches out of 30 in the NFL and 3 multiracial coaches. Are black coaches being overlooked? What needs to change?
Yeah, there has to be a change. I think we need to continue to put more young black coaches in the offensive rooms, in the quarterback rooms, and with the offensive coordinator positions alongside the offensive coordinator as well, so they get these opportunities. That seems to be where the hiring pool is coming out of by ownership. So we have to continue to put these young qualified coaches in those situations so they get these opportunities as much as possible.
I'd like to play a clip for you from Nightline anchor Ted Koppel talking with a former baseball executive back in 1987 about a lack of diversity in baseball and sports in general. Take a listen.
And I guess what I'm really asking you is to, peel it away a little bit. Just tell me, why do you think it is? Is there still that much prejudice in baseball today?
No, I don't believe it's prejudice. I truly believe that they may not have some of the necessities to be, let's say, a field manager or perhaps a general manager.
You really believe that?
Well, I don't say that they're all of them, but they certainly are short. How many quarterbacks do you have? How many pitchers do you have that are black? It's same
yeah, but I mean,
applies.
I got to tell you, that sounds like the same kind of garbage we were hearing 40 years ago about players when they were saying, not really cut out. You remember the days, hit a black football player in the knees, and no, that really sounds like garbage if you forget my saying so.
It's not garbage, Mr. Koppel.
How much has the needle really moved with regard to black coaches in the NFL 35 years later? Have attitudes really changed?
Well, we haven't moved the needle enough, no question. We were moving in the right direction. It's taken a few steps back over the last 2 or 3 hiring cycles, no doubt about it, and the opportunities to continue to move forward. So we have to really press forward. The people who make decisions have to understand what the job of the head coach is. It's not to coach one player. It's to coach the entire football team and bring it out of the entire football team. And many of these people being hired, coaches, have not done that. They've not had that opportunity. They've not stood in front of the room and had responsibility. They may have had a title, but they really weren't ever doing that particular job. And that's why the cycle is such where we have 6, 7, 8 coaches fired each season because of that, because it's new to them. They can't handle that step up.
And Flores describes what he calls sham interviews. The teams have denied those claims. You've certainly interviewed for many coaching jobs over the course of your career. Do you feel that you ever encountered anything similar to what he describes?
Well, I thought I had one situation that was, I don't know that they had 100% made up their mind, but at least a sports anchor had got on TV on a very prominent network and said, hey, this is what's going to happen later in the week. And I was asked to come and speak with the club. And I said, hey, seems like they've already made their decision. They denied that. I went there, but they made that decision at the end of the week. So again, you have to go. You have to prepare to go, more importantly, and you have to go and show them why what the decision maybe was already made might not been the right decision. But I think it happened close to that. I'm not, Brian, obviously what he felt had happened this year.
And some have wondered if there needs to be a major shakeup in the NFL. In the NBA, for example, players refused to play in the bubble after the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. LeBron tweeted at the time, "We demand change, sick of it." The NFL, of course, made up of 70% black players. Do players, would you say, need to throw some of their weight around? Would that make a difference?
Well, again, I don't know that, I think the players would have an influence. But I don't know if this is the time for that's got to be something that they feel strongly about. And maybe it's club to club. It might be, because it's not 100%. Some probably are going about it the correct way. And so I don't think there's any room for a blanket statement. But if I think players feel that way, a particular club, then they should voice their opinion.
And you lead the sports talent agency Octagon's Career Development, where you focus on trying to further diversity in the most senior levels across sports. Do you feel that you're making progress, significant progress?
Well, we're just getting started on that, and I'm really hopeful that what has happened this hiring cycle in football, at least, that we can make some progress through that with development of these coaches. Myself helping to prepare them, along with the guys in the other areas, Brad Daugherty, et cetera, in basketball, Mike Wood in hockey and soccer, respectively. So we feel comfortable with that. We're excited about beginning this and trying to help prepare people, whether it's transition from playing to coaches who want to have some upward mobility. And so I'm excited about the opportunity to do that.
So, of course, we know that you are biased. Let's end this on an upbeat. But any predictions, Rams, Bengals this weekend?
Well, I don't have much predict. I'm not a good predictor. I think it's going to be a good football game. I've really got one of my ex-players on the other side with the Rams, who I'm very endeared to. I wouldn't have had the success I had in Cincinnati without an Andrew Whitworth on my side. So, they got people on both sides that you're coaches and so forth alike that you're rooting for. So it's going to be a good football game.
All right. Former head coach Marvin Lewis, we thank you so much for sharing your perspective. All the best to you and your beloved Bengals this weekend as well.
Thank you.
Joining us now is a former employee of the Washington football team, which was recently named the Commanders, and she has come forward with allegations of sexual harassment that she says she faced every day. Here's part of her testimony to Congress last week.
I was told I wasn't allowed to wear flat shoes because he liked the way my body looked better when I was in high heels. My photograph was taken without my permission and passed to other executives throughout the team by my boss.
Emily Applegate, we thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So Commissioner Goodell announced that the NFL will independently investigate the new allegations against Snyder and not allow Washington to investigate itself. Is that an indication to you that the NFL is taking this seriously enough?
Not at all, actually, because we've heard that before. They took over the investigation when we were participating with the Wilkinson firm, and we saw now that Dan Snyder and the NFL teamed up behind our backs, and they made sure that they were going to keep everything confidential against what they were explaining to us and against what we were asking. So I do not believe that this is going to be any different.
And you say that you were told to wear tight outfits to events and also ask personal questions about your dating life. How difficult was it for you to go to work just day to day?
So I used to carpool with my roommate. She also worked for the team, and every day we would talk about just, powering through it and how we were going to get around certain situations. And then most of the time on the way home, she would be listening to me cry. So there was never a really good way to tackle the day or even get in the right mental state for what you knew was about to happen.
Some people might ask, well, why didn't you quit? Why didn't you get a new job? Was it just not that easy?
No, it's never that easy. I think anybody that works in the professional world knows that you can't just wake up and get a new job. Finding a job, first off, is a full-time job. And when you have to worry about paying rent and putting gas in your car and feeding yourself, you can't just decide to quit, especially as a young 20-something-year-old that doesn't have, a savings or anything like that to back you up.
And we saw 6 women by your side coming forward last week with their own stories. Do you believe that there's still more employees out there who just haven't yet spoken up or they're not speaking up?
Absolutely. I believe there are a tremendous amount of people that have very powerful stories, but unfortunately they're scared of the retaliation that Dan Snyder could possibly bring. And he's proven to us that he's capable of doing it.
And just to be clear, you don't actually have specific allegations against Dan Snyder harassing you directly. You're just suggesting that this was an environment that he allowed.
That is correct. I never had a direct encounter with Dan Snyder. One of those reasons is because I was instructed to never speak to him. So I never personally did. However, I know that the top of an organization trickles down to everybody in that building. And he was definitely allowing the behavior to continue.
What comes next in your fight against him as well as the NFL?
I think what comes next is whatever Congress is able to do to help us out. I believe that we're really moving in the right direction. And I'm hoping that first and foremost, the NFL decides to finally release that report. I believe that we all deserve to know what's in that report, not just the people that participated in it, but the people that are their fans, the people that go to the games and spend a lot of their hard-earned money putting into that team. They also deserve to know the person that they're supporting. And moving forward from that report, I believe that the next steps is for Congress to pass some legislation where they're going to protect employees in the workplace, and they're going to make sure that employees are never forced to sign any type of NDA, and that everybody is able to work in a safe and positive environment.
And I'm also curious, in your opinion, do you feel that this should stop at the very top of the football team or even with the NFL? Should Dan Snyder not be allowed to own a team in the NFL any longer?
I don't believe there's any space in the NFL for Dan Snyder. I don't believe there's any space in the NFL for Roger Goodell. I believe that these two men have proven time and time again that they're incapable of running organizations that promote the things that they pretend to stand for, like social justice and standing for women and all the things that they claim to care about. They proved that they don't. So I don't believe that they should be in any type of position where they're making powerful decisions and or inspiring kids to follow in their footsteps.
In many cases, the NFL has made promises for a welcoming culture for women, but there are not many women in executive level positions across the league. Are there improvements that you feel the NFL must make in order to improve working conditions across the board for women?
Absolutely. I think it'll start with a human resources department. And I think that because working in the NFL is actually a pretty small industry, a lot of people know a lot of people. Unfortunately, things spread quickly. We always have been saying that a outside source of a human resource department should be able to come in, so it's an unbiased opinion. I would love to see that. I would love to see more women in executive roles. I would love to see diversity and ownership of teams. And I would also love to see the players on the teams get a little bit more involved as well.
Emily Applegate, we thank you so much for talking with us tonight and sharing your story.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
The Washington Commanders did not respond to ABC News' multiple requests for comment on this story. And when we come back, a Super Bowl prediction you will want to see. Stay with us.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast, now streaming on ABC News Live.
It was a scary time in the 70s. You had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it, serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
We have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I risked my life. I put my family in danger. If I was caught, they would have put a bullet in my head. But it was the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do.
Terror plot foiled in Garden City, Kansas.
That would have been one of the most deadly acts of domestic terrorism ever in the United States. It would have been Oklahoma City.
He put his family, himself, in jeopardy for us.
Take America's #1 news with you anywhere you go, anytime, free. Download the ABC News app now. Breaking news, exclusives, 24/7. There for you with one touch. The ABC News app. Download it now. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're going to move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people
squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
National parks are incredibly safe places, but crime will happen.
Hey, my wife has fallen. She's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident.
There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
And And as we close out this half hour of the National Football League, people are starting to place their bets on who will win the big game on Sunday. If you need a nudge in one direction, let this baby elephant at the Fort Worth Zoo help you out. When left with the choice between two balls, one labeled as the LA Rams and one as the Cincinnati Bengals, there you see it. The baby named Brazos chose the Rams, knocking it down there. So there you have it, the LA Rams. That is the prediction there, and that is our show for tonight. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.
It was an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed